Welcome to another exciting episode of Unraveling Intellectual Property with Michael Stein. Today, I am excited to have a longtime friend, Todd Marlette, who I've known, I can't believe it, Todd, for over 30 years now. We used to work at the same law firm back in the 90s. And Todd's been, uh, in the past, in-house counsel for many years at Qualcomm. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
So rather than me tell people about yourself, why don't you tell us about yourself, a little bit of your background, and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, started my career with the electrical engineering degree from the University of Michigan, and then moved to Cleveland and went to Case Western to get my JD. One of the fun things that I did there as I clerked for 2 years at an IP law firm in downtown Cleveland, and I became a patent agent while I was in law school, which was unusual at the time. And after that, I moved to the Washington, D.C. area and went to Stoss and Halsey, where I worked with you, and we got a lot of great experience there, doing, some a little bit of litigation, but a lot of appeals with the Patent and Trademark Office, and then went to got my LLM at George Washington,
I didn't
went
know
over
that.
to Qualcomm for 13 years, and then moved in San Diego, moved back to the East Coast, and now I have my own firm here in on the East Coast in Delaware.
A couple things I didn't know about you getting your uh, patent agent uh,
Yep,
certificate or whatever we call it, and then getting the LLM. Today we're going to be talking about, we're going to focus on your time at Qualcomm and
sure.
life, life as an in-house counsel there. I know they're one of the preeminent patent acquirers and patent licensees, or licensors, I should say. All
Right.
right, so I'll let you start wherever you want to in that regard.
Okay, well, so I was at Qualcomm for 13 years and had the pleasure of serving underneath six different chief patent counsels during my tenure there. So it was and our department grew from 26 people to about 100 registered patent attorneys. And there was a lot of structural changes. So we started out in a paper-based system, focusing in different, there was standards, there was product, there was corporate research and development. And then it was reconfigured so that everybody was focused on a technology area. And I think that's pretty much the standard nowadays. Whereas, you will work, if you're working for a company like Qualcomm, if there's a standard or there's corporate research and development or a product, all of those will go to the same attorney for if it's air interface or if it's, what's ever going to be in the handset. So that's where we kind of are now with the system. And of course, there was a lot of adventures when I was at Qualcomm, and a lot of the structure of the law firm was driven by a lot of the licensing and litigation lessons that we had learned over the years. There was a lot of high profile litigation in the
When you
patent
say
space.
structure of the law firm, did you mean structure of a law firm or structure of in-house team?
Well, that's right. The structure of the in-house
Right.
team. We kind of internally bragged a little bit that our team grew so big with 100 registered patent attorneys that we were bigger than many of the law firms that were supporting us with doing outside counsel work.
So tell me about a day in the life of in-house counsel.
Well, certainly there was always something exciting going on, if you will. But we usually, the core, from my experience, the core was Tuesday to Thursday because, when you're grouping that many people, you wanted to have your core meetings Tuesday through Thursday. So Mondays and Fridays were usually just kind of catching up and doing your day-to-day tasks. We would have a docket size of from about 800 to 1,200 international cases. So with Qualcomm, most of the cases were filed originally in the US, and then they went through the PCT, IP5, and then we went into a number of different countries. We serviced, last I when I was there, 23 separate countries. So sometimes we would file in Russia, we would file in Iraq, South Africa, like certain jurisdictions that you wouldn't even think of
Who,
in normal space.
did you have any say in those decisions, or was that higher up? Like, how do you decide I'm going to file in Iraq or Russia or wherever?
Well, that's a great question. So one of my duties during the midpoint of my career was to work for the portfolio management team. And that was a special operations team that reported directly to the chief patent counsel, and that was part of our job. Our part of our job was to structure, the administration of these cases. So, for example, when we started, we had 46 separate patent review boards. So, in other words, the inventors put we call them IDFs, invention disclosure forms. They put those into the queue, and then somehow they had to get to one of these different patent review boards. We call them PRBs. So during this, and so part of my job as portfolio manager was to reorganize the patent review boards so that every single IDF had a home for the core technology. And as you can understand, as Qualcomm, there's changes in technology, and as the portfolio increased, there were outliers. And Qualcomm, by the way, does things that you would not know that they do. They manage servers. They have special operations in Israel. They actually produced a gaming console in Brazil. There was a Qualcomm branded gaming console like that would compete with Nintendo. So we did a lot of things that you wouldn't know about from the headlines.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these big companies, IBM does a whole bunch of stuff, and that's not their core technologies. I don't know, maybe Qualcomm was licensing or making additional revenue.
Right.
And so what you're saying is you were part of one of these review boards.
Well, what part of my job was correct. I was the chair of a couple different patent review
Okay.
boards. But part of my job was to organize and define the patent review boards. And then we had the fun part about open source. So, everybody's familiar with the Android operating system, which is an open source operating system. And so we had an entire group dedicated to open source, and so there was a group of maybe 10 attorneys. There was a patent review board there. And the problem is that because Qualcomm would derive a lot of its revenue from licensing of standards essential patents, we did not want to put too much effort into patenting open source because it would chip away at the licensing stream. So part of my job was to have weekly reports to what we called the Open Source Executive Committee, where we would try to draw the line between what is open source and what is Qualcomm's core technology.
And then, well, let's actually take a break now, and then we'll return for part two of this very interesting conversation.